my name is Officer Sewell, and I'm with the Coffeyville Police Department. Today, I'm going to talk to you briefly about the burglaries we've had in the area, and then I'm going to talk about the inclement weather and how to drive in it, since we have some pending. This month in our burglaries, we did pretty good. We saw a dramatic decrease from the last month. If you recall, not in November, but the month before, we had 31 burglaries. And this month, we're down to 15. That is because officers got out there, they checked buildings, they went around, and they made a lot of stops, and they made a lot of arrests. And most of those arrests, believe it or not, were because of you guys. I know I say it every meeting, but I highly encourage you guys to call in any suspicious activity that you see, which is anything out of the ordinary. And because of that, we were able to get out there more. We had more eyes on the street, we had more eyes on buildings, and we were out there getting an arrest. And we made 5 solid burglary arrests last month. So it showed in November, because we only had 6 commercial burglaries, 4 residential burglaries, and 5 vehicle burglaries versus the 31 we had last month, 10 of which were commercial burglaries. So I'm hoping this month we will see none. And I would encourage you guys to continue calling in things. If you see anybody around a commercial business after dark that you don't think belongs there, call it in. If you see a vehicle parked in a parking lot that doesn't normally park in that parking lot, like we know at 4 a.m. the bakery is going to have a car in front of it because bakers go in at 4 a.m. But if you look over at the bank and there's a car in the parking lot, you know somebody's not going to be there at 4 a.m. So if it spikes your interest, it should spark ours, which means you should call it in. If you see somebody walking around with a flashlight, that's a pretty good giveaway if they're checking on a building with a flashlight or checking doors or walking around the back of a residence. Most of our residential burglaries that we've been having lately, people are knocking out air conditioner units to get into the houses, or they're walking in through the back door. They're kicking the back door open. So if you're seeing somebody who doesn't belong in a backyard going into a backyard, you know who your neighbors are. And if they walk back there, call it in. They don't need to be back there, then we need to know about it. And we have had some good calls on that recently. We had one next to the college where somebody saw a truck back up into the alleyway to a house and they called it in. We checked on it and it was a good solid call. So I'm thankful for that guy calling, and I encourage anybody else to, we'd rather check it out and make sure it's not something real than miss something real. So thank you guys for putting out your efforts on that, and I'm going to talk about inclement weather driving now. As I'm sure you guys are all aware, tonight the weather people have forecasted snow. And I'm a let it snow, let it snow, let it snow kind of person, but I know a lot of people aren't. One of the reasons for this is because you have to drive in the snow, and it's not nearly as pretty when it's causing your tires to spin. It's not hard to imagine yourself driving down a highway on a cold winter morning, so I'm gonna give you guys a scenario. You woke up to work that morning, and knowing the weatherman predicted snow, but when you stepped outside, you didn't see a snowflake on the ground. So you wake up, you go outside, there's no snow, it's still cold. So you get in your car, you warm it up, and you go. You head off to, we'll say, instead of work, we'll go Christmas shopping, okay? So you're heading to Joplin, and you take off west out of town. And as you're approaching Walmart, you start to cross the Vertigus Bridge. As you get on the bridge, you start to notice this layer of white on the bridge. And trying to practice cautious driving, you slow down. Still, you feel your car wobble, and suddenly you are skidding sideways across 4 lanes of highway traffic. You bounce off the bridge, then you jerk your wheel trying to get back in your own lane, but instead, you keep sliding and you hit that side of the bridge. The car next to you suddenly can't stop either, and both of you end up colliding and running off the roadway, thankfully in the ditch just after the bridge. Do you think that sounds far-fetched? Because it's not. It's exactly where a girl found herself about 10 days ago right here in Coffeyville. On November 25th, the Coffeyville Police Department and the Montgomery County Police Department woke up to spitting snow and cold weather and all sorts of accidents. We had, inside the city limits, in a 30-minute stretch, we had 3 accidents, which was nothing compared to Montgomery County, who had 7 non-injury accidents and 1 injury accident, which consisted of an entrapment. I happened to have responded to 2 of the 3 accidents we had, and both of them reported to me the same thing. They had gotten onto a bridge and knew it was going to be slick, So they tried slowing down, and instead, they were going out of control. What did they do wrong? Does anybody know? They tapped their brakes. Sounds like a reasonable thing to do, right? In normal driving conditions, it is. However, it's the wrong move in snow and ice. So what do you do if your car starts to slide or you want to slow down? The first thing is simply take your foot off of the accelerator. Your speed will decrease. I know you've heard it before, but especially on bridges and overpasses, drive carefully. It's the first thing to freeze. So even at temperatures above freezing, if the conditions are wet, you might encounter ice in shady areas or on exposed roadways like the bridges. Every accident that occurred on the 25th in the city limits was bridge related. Sometimes though, things happen. So what do you do if your car starts to skid? Well, it depends on what's going on with the car. If your rear wheels skid, take your foot off the accelerator. Steer in the direction you want the front wheels to go. If your rear wheels are sliding left, steer left. If they are sliding right, steer right. If your rear wheels start sliding the other way as you recover, ease the steering wheel towards that side. You might have to steer left and right a few times to get your vehicle completely under control. If you have standard brakes, pump them gently. If you have anti-lock brakes, which most newer cars have anymore, they're ABS brakes, don't pump the brakes, just apply steady pressure to the brakes, and you're gonna feel the brakes pulse, and that's what it's supposed to sound like, and it kind of makes a grinding noise, but that's normal. If your front wheels start to skid, immediately take your foot off the gas, but this time, if you have time, shift into neutral, and don't try to steer. As the wheels skid sideways, they will slow the vehicle and the traction will return on its own. As it does, steer in the direction you want to go, then put the transmission in drive, or release the clutch and accelerate gently. In these kind of situations, steering is bad. The most common reaction is to continue turning the steering wheel, which only makes things worse. If the icy conditions end and the front tires regain grip, your car is going to shoot off whatever direction the wheels are pointed. So in my scenario, it happened to be the Vertigus Bridge. Ice and bridges are a trick, but there are lots of other hazards. I know last year that I found that snowplows had got out and they'd cleared the streets fast, but when they did that, they kind of buried my car. So I had troubles getting out of my driveway, or just in general. So if you do get stuck, what do? Try to remember, don't just sit there and spin your tires. All that's gonna do is dig you into a deeper hole. So kind of get in the car and turn your wheel from side to side, and that's gonna push the snow out of the way and give you a little bit more room to move around. Don't punch the gas, just use a light touch to ease your car out. Don't be afraid to get out and use a shovel and clear snow away from the front of away from your wheels and the underside of your car. And you can always pour sand or kitty litter or salt in the path of the wheels to help them get traction. And how I got out was I tried rocking the vehicle. If you have a newer car, you really need to check the owner's manual first, because some transmissions don't like that. So make sure that it's okay with your owner's manual, and then you can rock the car. Rocking the car consists of shifting a car from forward to reverse and back again. Each time you're in gear, you give a light touch to the gas until the vehicle gets going. Newer vehicles have traction control though, so check and see if it does, because this will cause your car to automatically stop your tires from spinning, which means you can't rock yourself out of the hole. You can turn this off and allow yourself a little more give on the tires so that they spin a little bit more, but don't forget to turn it back on, because it's a great safety feature in this kind of weather. So you just rock it back and forth, and pretty soon you're gonna climb out of the hole. Once you get going on the roadway, there are some practices that'll keep you safer, such as keeping your lights on to increase visibility to other motorists. Don't use your cruise control or overdrive on icy roads. You also don't use your cruise control when it's raining outside, because if there's standing water, you can hydroplane. Don't pass snow plows or sanding trucks, because they have very limited visibility, and you're likely to find the road in front of them is much worse than the road behind them. You think it's common sense, but people go around them all the time. So another thing is use low gears to keep your car in traction. It keeps your speed slower, and it works really well on hills. Also, once you start up a hill, don't stop. When you start down a hill, don't hit your brakes or take your foot off, just take your foot off the accelerator. Just don't hit your brakes. My Lieutenant Bradley, always preaches to me about working accidents on bridges and hills. He tells us if we can move off of the roadway, for safety reasons, obviously. There's kind of no place to go on a bridge except for over the side. So he tells me a delightful story about an accident on the hills of Klein Road where people kept sliding and wrecking into each other. And basically, his story went, a car accident happened, and there's 2 cars involved. So they start working the accident, and another car comes over the hill, and he sees the accident, so he brakes, and he turns sideways, and he hits the accident that happened at the bottom of the hill. And by the time they were done with this accident, they had like 7 wrecked cars. So, and basically every one of them had hit their brakes at the top of the hill. So just take your foot off the accelerator, make sure you're going slow to begin with. I found a lot of accidents in our jurisdiction happen from people driving too fast for conditions. So in general, when you are driving on the roadway, decrease your speeds and leave yourself plenty of room. In general, you should allow 3 times more space than usual between you and the car in front of you. I also have found people with 4-wheel drive trucks wreck as much, if not more, than vehicles without 4-wheel drive. Don't assume your vehicle can handle all conditions. Even 4-wheel drive or front-wheel drive vehicles can encounter trouble on winter roads. Remember, 4-wheel drive just means 2 more tires that can go out of control. Another thing I see is people in a rush. And when people hurry, they can do dumb things like drive down the road with 3-inch holes cleared out on each window. So not only does it reduce visibility, but you kind of look silly trying to drive through a peephole. So take the time to keep your lights and your windshield clean. And I know I stop more cars when I see that. It's crazy. I stop more than you think when I see that. And you kind of aren't really getting anywhere if you're talking to me about safe driving for 15 minutes, are you? So your hurry really didn't matter anyway. So if you're like me and you are a terrible morning person, sometimes it doesn't hurt to be prepared in advance for keeping your windshield clear. Replace your windshield wiper blades. Apply water shedding stuff to your window like Rain-X to all the outside windows, including your mirrors. Make sure your windshield wiper washer system works and is full of anti-icing fluid, and drain older fluid by running the washer until you see the new fluid appear. So most of the time the anti-icing stuff, I believe it's orange, and your bug remove stuff is green, so just until you see that color change. Recently on Facebook, I have noticed a post that keeps popping up, and it's talking about how to remove ice from your window quickly. And it wants you to mix vinegar with water. Don't do that, because what that does is pit your window. It destroys your window. And I saw it on Facebook, and I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. I'm gonna do that. And I was talking to the assistant chief here, and he's like, don't do that. It's going to break your window. And I actually, last year, I walked outside and I watched my neighbor take boiling hot water and throw it on his windshield because he was trying to melt the ice, and it just shattered his windshield. It's kind of funny, but it's not. So just remember that you just got to take the time to actually clear your windows. Get out there with your ice scraper, because your visibility is so important in these kinds of situations. But people don't always realize the inside of your windows can be just as important. Clean the inside of your windows thoroughly, and in order to remove condensation and frost from the interior of your windows, kick on your air conditioner and select the fresh air option. And it's fine to set the temperature on hot. You know, you want to warm up your car, but it gets that fresh air onto the window so that it's not fogging up. And most cars do this automatically with the defrost setting, but you might just, with your older cars, you can do that. So being prepared in all aspects doesn't hurt. I have read that you should keep winter tires on your cars, and that the tire tread has to be 6 and 32-inch deep. So if you don't put winter tires on, make sure that at least you have good tread on your car. It never hurts to do the penny test. Does anybody know what the penny test is? Yeah, you put a penny in the tread, and if you can see all of Lincoln's head, you really probably need new tires. You should be able to cover like the top half of his head at least. Make certain that your tires are properly inflated. Cold air makes your tires go flat. Hot air makes your tires expand because the air inside them. So you're probably actually at the beginning of winter gonna need to fill up your tires just in general. So another concept I see more and more often, and I really love seeing, is having a go bag or a disaster kit or your zombie apocalypse fighting kit or whatever you want to call it this time around. But you keep a go bag in your car. You never know if you were going to get stuck on a lonely desert road. So it's good to have some supplies in case you do. Desert road. We're talking about winter weather, so I'm going to put us on a desert road. A lonely, desolate road. How about that? So good things to keep in this bag are a working flashlight, extra batteries, reflective triangles, and brightly colored cloth, a first aid kit with more than just Band-Aids. If you have a heart condition, keep any medications that you take on a daily basis, because you don't know if you're going to be out there 4 or 5 hours, and you might take a pill every 6 hours. So keep some medical supplies in your car that you're used to. If you're insulin dependent, keep some extra insulin in your car. Make sure that you have an ice scraper in your car, wooden matches in a waterproof container, water, because water is the most important thing that you can have in this sort of situation. Even if it is a hot desert versus wintertime, no matter what, water is the most important thing that you can have, because you can only go a certain amount of time without water, where you can go weeks without food. Flares are a good thing to have in it. Scissors, non-perishable foods or high energy foods like unsalted cans, nuts, dried fruits, hard candy. Why do you think you would keep hard candy in your car? If you eat hard candy, it keeps your mouth salivating and it makes you dehydrate less. You don't need to drink the water as fast and that sort of thing. In addition to, if you are driving long distances under cold, snowy, and icy conditions, you should probably keep heavy woolen mittens, socks, and like a cap and a blanket in the car. In case you do break down, you can keep yourself warm if you're running out of gas. If you do become stranded, do not leave your car unless you know exactly where you are, how far it is to possible help, and you are certain it will improve your situation. To attract attention, if you have flares, place one on each end of the car. You can always do something different though. You can hang brightly colored cloths from your antenna or write on your windshield people inside in the ice. If you are make sure that your car's exhaust pipe is not blocked, and you run the engine and the heater for about 10 minutes every hour or so, depending on the gas in your tank. The reason you want to make sure that your pipe's not blocked is so you're not getting carbon monoxide poisoning and that the exhaust isn't going into your car. To protect yourself from frostbite and hypothermia, you use those woolen items that you're keeping in your car and the blankets to keep warm. Keep at least one of the windows slightly open, because heavy snow and ice can seal your car shut. Really, in these kinds of situations, the best advice I can give you is, if you don't have to be out in it, then don't. You may be a safe driver, but not everyone around you knows how to drive in the snow. So you can be from Alaska, drive in the snow all year round, and you are perfectly fine in it, but that does not mean that Kansas drivers know what they're doing. So just, if you can stay home, stay home. Anybody have any questions?
Great, thank you, Shelby. Could you just talk very briefly or put a reminder out there about the Christmas parade coming up, and also maybe remind our community that it is the holidays, and I know my wife and I have a lot of presents in the back seat of our car, and how maybe that's not a great idea to leave parked out in the street all the time.
I will gladly talk about that, because it's like one of my things. The parade has been moved. It was moved off from this weekend because of the impending weather. So they moved it to Friday the 13th, and I believe it's at 9 a.m.?
The parade will be lining up at 5:30, and I believe starting at 6.
But I don't know where I got 9 at all then.
Yeah,
Okay, it starts at 5:30.
Friday the 13th.
Yeah, Friday the 13th. So that's easy to remember. They're also doing Santa cookies with Santa that day too. So all that stuff has been moved to Friday the 13th. One of the things he talked about was not leaving gift boxes and presents in your car. Vehicle burglaries are usually crimes of opportunity. If somebody's walking by your car and they happen to see that it's unlocked and that you have a laptop, Xbox, and a brand new iPad for your kids, they're not going to turn it down, because their kid wants an iPad too. So I highly recommend, if you are Christmas shopping, keep those stuff out of your car. When you go shopping, immediately go home and put it in your nice hidey hole inside the house. But if you do have to, say you're going from JCPenney's to Sears, and you don't have time to drive back to Coffeyville because you know all this stuff's in Bartlesville or Joplin or Tulsa, make sure that you're not putting that stuff in plain sight. Put it in your trunk and lock your trunk. or at the very minimum, put it under your chair or something. Always secure your car, because that's, like I said, crime of opportunity. If the car's locked, very seldom do they actually break a window to get in the car. Now, if there's a computer sitting in there and they want that, they might. So keep it out of plain sight, lock your car doors, set your burglar alarms, because if that alarm's going off, they're taking off running. That's the beauty of alarm systems. When you guys are Christmas shopping, have some situational awareness. When you're walking out to your car, look around, have your keys out and ready to put in the doorknob before you get there. The first thing women should do is put their purse in the car first, and then they can get in the car, and always have those keys ready. This is kind of the season for, I know it's supposed to be the season where you love your brother and you go out and you have family time together, but this is the season for purse snatching and vehicle burglaries. So try to have situational awareness, look around, keep your stuff out of plain sight.
Shelby, how often have you seen a window broken out lately in a car to make entry?
I have been in law enforcement on the street for 5 years now, and I have never seen a window broke out.
So you think locking your door makes a big difference?
I do, because
Absolutely.
We've had cars stolen, and we've worked B&Ts, and every single time a car is stolen, it's, well, the keys were in the ignition because I was just running in for 5 minutes and I fell asleep and took a nap. Or, it's a junker. I didn't think anybody would take it. You'd be surprised. The cars that are taken are not necessarily cars. It's not the, nice BMW. It's not the super nice Expedition down the road. It's the easy to get into 1970s truck that everybody leaves the key into. Because actually, I think that almost 70% of ours are trucks that are taken, or small Toyota Corollas or cars like that.
So it may not be a good idea if I wake up in the morning and go out and start my car and let it run with the unlock with the keys in the ignition and go back in and make breakfast.
That is not a good idea. I know you want to defrost your windows that way, but it is actually against state statute in Kansas to leave your car running like that. So not only do you leave your car running and it might get stolen, but you might get a ticket. So something that I see very commonly in Coffeyville is people pull up to the gas station and they're running in for 5 minutes, and by God, they don't want to let that car get cool, so they run in. Well, then their car's gone when they come back out. Another thing, even if you're filling up at the gas pump, you should lock your car doors. The only time it is legal to leave your car running is if you have a remote start system and the doors are locked. Any other questions?
Great. Well, thank you, Shelby, and also to remind our community that, of course, the Coffeyville Chamber does the ticket drawing that everyone looks forward to every year, and usually they post that number in the Christmas parade, and with the Christmas parade being moved, my understanding is the Chamber will still be announcing that number tomorrow. It'll be, I'm sure, on KGGF and put it in the journal. I'm sure it'll be on their website and their Facebook site as well, and maybe we can rebroadcast it on our Facebook page as well. So if you haven't liked us yet on Facebook, definitely look us up, Coffeyville Police Department, and give us a like.
On that Facebook page, most of the tips that I gave out tonight will be posted on there, and we try to do the city stuff and get that stuff back out there too. So if there's inclement weather, we are posting that sort of stuff. If we have a crime trend, such as burglaries or robberies or something crazy like that, we're posting those crime trends too. Last year, for example, we had storage units that were getting broken into. So we posted a crime trend over that. These are better kind of locks to use, and just simple things like that. But, the community doesn't always know what's going on. So it's really great to have something as informative as Facebook, social media. And I hope that we get some likes from this, because I think that we're getting information out there, and it's only a positive thing. Absolutely.
And if you'd like to sign up for our Nixle system, it's an automatic email and text message system. It's very easy to do. If you just text message the word Coffeyville to the number 888-777, it'll automatically sign up your cell phone. That's the word Coffeyville to 888-777.
Thank you. We did have a little glitch with the Nixle this month. We were getting fog alerts for Allen County. So I started asking the guy in charge of Nixle, and I said, hey, what's up with us getting Allen County Nixles? And he says, well, because A comes before M. I said, well, what's that mean? And he says, A comes before M. Montgomery County also has one, but Allen County is in our target area, so they are also getting one. So they just happen to come before us, so it just says Allen County on the nixle. It doesn't mean Montgomery County isn't getting one. It just means it says Allen County because it's first. So if you're receiving nixles now and you're getting Allen County or Chautauqua County nixles, it's for us. I just wanted to touch on that. So I do thank you all for coming. I know it's really cold and everybody's terrified of this snow, so I do appreciate you guys coming out tonight. Thank you very much.